Today, we're going to talk about user lifecycle management, the different types of users and provisioning that can take place along with compliance best practices. Patricia Diaz wrote an article for the Security Intelligence website that states complexity comes as a result of new functionalities and networks entering the corporate environment. Beyond managing growing Active Directories, corporate access management has become more complex due to systems that have their own access management tools. Therefore, access management complexity becomes more than just managing users in the system. It's also about finding ways to stay in control of the enterprise and its new third-party apps and functionalities. In addition to this complexity is also the issue of complacency, meaning too much access for too long. Therefore, I'm an advocate of two key concepts. One, user management centralization as a method of reducing the risk surrounding complexity. And two, managing users in a life cycle fashion, a beginning, a middle, and an end. ERP systems will forever have their own tools or utilities for managing access, which often comes with functionality specific to that ERP. By centralizing provisioning and adopting processes that correspond with lifecycle management, you can better ensure both enterprise control and compliance of logical access controls. Let's talk about the concept of user lifecycle management. User lifecycle management is documentation and processes related to the management of users on your ERP system. It includes the creation of new users, the changes that can occur as they live within the software in your organization. It's about their duties or task changes, their promotions, their leave of absences, potential terminations, and even their retirements. When developing processes or procedures related to user lifecycle management, input from various departments is crucial. Key process considerations include the beginning, such as new hire processes, at which point the access management team will be notified. What method of notification will be used? What forms are required, and how can you best standardize this information? The middle, such as changes in job duties, promotions, or leave of absences, at which point will the access management team be notified of changes? Is it the result of a periodic review? If change in access needs to occur sooner, what method is the best to facilitate access and execution of the change, especially when the data may be sensitive? The end. When users move on and their relationship with the organization is terminated, what does this look like within the lifecycle process? In most cases, the information is time and data sensitive, so care must be taken to accommodate the need for immediate change. Beyond these key process considerations is also the need to incorporate ERP functionality and audit compliancy. IT administrators should be involved in providing information as it relates to the way the ERP system handles these tasks. This must be included in your procedure documentation. Internal audit should also be involved, and discussions or decisions should take place around segregation when provisioning or changing access, especially when multiple ERP systems are involved. When developing user lifecycle management documentation, it is important to also consider the different methods of provisioning. Discretionary account provisioning allows a network administrator to decide for himself which applications and data the end user should be able to access. Self-service account provisioning, popular with new ERPs, allows users to participate in some aspect of the provisioning process to reduce the administrator's overhead. Workflow-based account provisioning, which gathers the required approvals from the designated approvers before granting a user access to an application or data. Automated account provisioning requires every account to be added the same way through an interface in a centralized management application. ERP systems likely have different functionality surrounding provisioning methods like these. So it's important that they are discussed and decided upon, whether it be the usage of or not, within the processes. It is important to also consider the types of accounts, such as end user or business user. An example of this is an AR clerk, a super user or support user, and an example of this is a finance support analyst, Typically, they have access to multiple functions and tasks within a department. Or system and generic users. They're out-of-the-box user IDs or integration IDs used by the system itself or between systems. Development users, which are used in a specific environment to develop and modify code. Or system administration users, which have the highest level of access to administer the system. Different types of accounts may correspond to different types of access or are subject to different levels of compliance controls. When it comes to compliancy, what are some of the best practices you should adhere to? As with any compliancy concerns, an organization should develop risk-based policies and procedures. Once you have identified the risk, you can begin to look at ways in which to mitigate those risks. We recommend a deny-all approach. No one gets access unless they specifically require it. Access is therefore determined on a need-to-have, case-by-case basis. A general rule to follow: the requester, approver, and assigner should be a different person within the process. Here are a few tips for designing the user lifecycle management process. Create policies and procedures for provisioning. Ensure it covers the following: vendors, contractors, temporary or casual workers, change of position, such as a promotion or demotion, leave of absence, like a family or sick leave, and terminations. Ensure the process considers the communication required between departments and addresses any gaps which can create additional risks. Train staff on the policies and procedures annually and conduct periodic reviews. Consider alert-based monitoring for exceptions, such as roles provisioned by system administrators outside the regular provisioning process and hours. As with any newly created process, on your ERP system, consider conducting a self-audit to validate controls are in place and working as expected. Conduct a self-audit 90 days after the policies or procedures have been put in place. A self-audit should cover data extracts of key user tables, role assignment, date and time, and by whom, a lookup against your ticketing system to identify the approver, date and time, and a lookup against your ticketing system to identify the requester, date and time. If applicable, was an SOD check performed, and if so, the date and time is proved. You can then work to identify anomalies within the process, such as the requester was the approver, the requester was the assigner, the approver was the assigner, the request date is after the approval date, the assignment date is after the approval date. If anomalies are identified, it is important to go back to your user lifecycle management process and procedures and make updates to close these gaps. In summary, the key to compliant user management is to address the risk inherent in today's complex provisioning world. Consider centralization and the concept of user lifecycle management when designing processes and procedures, even when Oracle ERPs have their own utilities for managing access. We at Q Software understand that creating user management processes as relate to different ERP systems can be complex. If you would like to discuss your specific challenges, please contact us. Also, make sure to subscribe to the Q Software YouTube channel. Just click on the subscription button below or in the bottom right corner of this video.